Imagine a world where your deepest secrets aren't hidden behind incredibly complex mathematical puzzles.
The kind we think of.
They're intrinsically tied to the shape and movement of a living, evolving system. Forget static numbers, fixed algorithms. What if your key to security was alive, constantly changing, yet undeniably itself?
It does sound like something ripped straight out of science fiction, doesn't it?
It does.
Today on the Deep Dive, we're plunging into a revolutionary idea at the bleeding edge of science.
Okay.
We're talking about using intrinsic geometry of complex dynamical systems as cryptographic keys.
Wow.
Intrinsic geometry.
This concept builds unprecedented bridges between the abstract elegance of mathematics, the chaotic reality of physics, and the ever-evolving field of cutting-edge cryptography.
This deep dive is your shortcut to understanding what's being heralded as the first ever dynamical crypto system.
That's the claim, yeah. First ever.
We're going to journey through its fascinating theoretical foundations, explore the practical prototypes that actually brought it to life,
The nuts and bolts.
confront the inherent security challenges they pose. Nothing's ever simple, right?
Never, especially in crypto.
And glimpse their profound connections to the fundamental laws of thermodynamics, which is just wild.
Connects everywhere.
Our mission is to unpack how systems, biological, physical, or engineered, can cryptographically verify their own observable signals,
Using their own internal structure.
simply by leveraging their internal geometric structure as a private key. Get ready for some profound aha moments that might fundamentally shift how you think about digital security. Let's unpack this, starting with what most of us already know about cryptography.
The familiar stuff.
When we talk about crypto, our minds usually jump to things like RSA, encryption, securing every online purchase, every email, every message.
Traditionally, cryptography has relied on static mathematical problems. These are computational puzzles that are incredibly hard to solve unless you have that specific piece of secret information, the key.
Right.
Think of them as frozen formulas or static lock mechanisms. RSA, for example, the most widely used public key crypto system.
Still used to
Absolutely. Its security is based on the difficulty of factoring extremely large numbers into prime components.
Yeah, I remember that from school. Prime factorization.
It's a fixed algebraic puzzle. Once it's set up, it remains constant. You're trying to break this massive number into its hidden prime factors.
It's not just RSA, is it? This kind of fixed puzzle approach seems to be everywhere in traditional crypto.
Look at elliptic curve cryptography, ECC.
All right, messaging apps.
Exactly. It relies on something called the discrete logarithm problem, but over the points of an elliptic curve. So again, it's still about solving a puzzle based on a fixed algebraic structure.
Bit more complex.
More complex, allows shorter keys for similar security levels, but it's still a static algebraic puzzle.
Even the new stuff, the post-quantum candidates we hear about.
Things like lattice-based cryptography designed to resist future quantum computers.
A big challenge.
A huge challenge. They build on problems in high-dimensional lattices, designed to be hard for quantum computers. But they operate on a fundamentally static algebraic problem set. The puzzle is chosen, it's hard, and it stays that way.
Common thread is static, fixed, unchanging problems.
Exactly. What's fascinating, or maybe limiting, depending on your view, is that the underlying problems in all these traditional systems are fundamentally fixed. The difficulty comes from the computational power needed to brute force them without the key.
The secret is you a large static number, a specific point on an algebraic curve, or a set of vectors in a lattice.
Yeah.
It's information that doesn't evolve.
How does this contrast with dynamic cryptography? This is where you said we introduce a truly wild proposition.
It really is wild.
The secret isn't just a fixed number or some algebraic curve, but the way a system moves, evolves, transforms through time.
That's the core of the dynamical crypto system concept. The idea is a living, evolving system could be the cryptographic key,
Not just generate, but be the key.
inherently verifying its own observable signals, not just spitting out a static key derived from itself. Imagine the system not as a key generator, but as the key itself. Conceptualize a network of dynamic elements, oscillators, or something else, where it's geometry.
Its intrinsic shape, curvature, underlying structure, things you absolutely cannot directly see or easily infer just by watching it from the outside, that becomes the fundamental secret.
Okay, so this isn't like geometry in ECC, algebraic geometry.
No, that's a key distinction. Algebraic geometry deals with sets of solutions to polynomial equations on abstract mathematical structures. Here, we're talking about the geometry of the system's actual space.
Space,
Remind me.
that's that abstract multidimensional space representing all possible states of a dynamic system as it evolves over time. Think of it like a landscape the system wanders through. We're talking about the shape of that landscape.
Okay, let's get more technical then for us. To wrap our heads around this, we need to define some core elements.
Let's break it down.
You mentioned the state space. You called it M. Tell us more.
Imagine a vast, smooth, continuously connected mathematical space, like a landscape or a geometric object that's the state space.
It represents all possible configurations or states the system can be in. Think of it like an unbelievably detailed map. Every single point on that map is a unique snapshot of your system.
And you use the word differentiable. Why is that important?
Differentiable means this landscape is smooth. No sharp breaks, no jumps, no corners. At any point, you can figure out a direction and how things are changing. It allows for calculus on this state space. It makes the movement predictable, even if complex.
Got it. Smooth landscape. Then there's the flow. You called it the life force.
Hey, maybe a bit poetic, but it captures the idea. The flow, or Feller, is the evolution operator. It's the precise rulebook, the dynamic engine that dictates exactly how the system continuously moves and transforms through its state space over time.
It's the rules governing the system's change.
It describes how the system lives, breathes, moves from one state to the next in a continuous, deterministic, though often complex way.
Within this evolving landscape, you said systems tend to maintain invariant geometric structures. What are those, and why are these so important for this crypto idea?
As the system evolves, it doesn't wander randomly forever. It settles into specific patterns or regions.
Yeah.
These are invariant geometric structures.
Like stable points or cycles.
They could be stable points the system is drawn towards, or recurring cycles, or entire submanifolds where the system exhibits stable, synchronized behavior. We call these attractors or invariant manifolds.
And their importance.
They are crucial because they encode the system's fundamental robustness and memory. They represent stable patterns that the system naturally settles into and maintains, often even if there's some external noise or small internal changes.
That's the system's fingerprint, its identity.
If the system is trying to verify itself cryptographically, it needs to recognize its own unique, consistent identity. These invariant structures are the system's inherent consistent identity maintained over time despite the flow.
Okay, so that's the system's identity. How does that identity become a private key? This is where it gets different.
The private key, K or key gem, isn't just some number derived from this. It's defined as a function of the system's intrinsic geometric data within its state space. Deep fundamental properties. Like the Riemannian metric, often denoted G. This is like the Hedon rulebook defining how you measure distances and angles specifically on that unique curved surface of the manifold, the state space.
Custom ruler and protractor just for that system's landscape.
Imagine trying to navigate a strange, hilly landscape. The Riemannian metric tells you the true distance along the curved surface, not just the crow fly's distance. That rulebook itself becomes part of the secret.
Wow, what else?
It includes curvature tensors, R. These describe how this space bends and folds in every direction at every point, saddle, peak, valley, or something more complicated. This unique bending profile is a part of the secret identity.
The shape of the space.
The literal intrinsic shape. Then you have topological invariants. These remain unchanged even if you stretch or deform the space, like the number of holes in it. Think donut versus sphere, fundamentally different topology. These describe overall connectivity. And finally, invariant measures. These represent the long-term probability distribution of states. Where does the system tend to spend its time on this landscape? All these mathematical properties together define the system's unique internal hidden geometry.
That is a profound departure from elliptic curve cryptography. You mentioned ECC uses algebraic geometry, solutions to polynomial equations on abstract curves. But here, you're talking about the geometry of the system's actual phase space, the space it physically or virtually moves within.
You've nailed the distinction. It's the geometry of a dynamic process, not a static construct. The secret is the shape of the dynamics, not a static equation. It feels much more physical, even when abstract.
How does it communicate or prove that identity to the outside world?
Right, it needs to output something. It emits an observable output. This is a public signal. It could be a time series like a waveform or a spatial pattern from a projection of its evolving state.
Or projection. Like a shadow.
Exactly like a shadow. You're seeing a lower dimensional representation of the complex, high-dimensional internal state. Think of it as the system's surface rhythm or pattern it publicly displays. This could be an aggregate oscillation from many parts, a complex visual pattern, or some other measurable output.
This public signal, this shadow, is signed.
It's signed using a cryptographic function parameterized by that intrinsic geometric private key. We call this cryptographic signing sigma Keller.
The system is literally signing its own public output, using its own hidden shape as the secret.
It's like the system saying, this signal is authentically me, you can trust it, because it could only have emerged from my unique internal structure.
The whole security premise, the foundation this all stands on.
The computational hardness of inferring the private key from the public signal alone.
You can't work backward from the shadow to figure out the shape of the object casting it.
Exactly. And this isn't just hard in the traditional sense of takes a long time. It's potentially linked to deep concepts like NP hardness problems, where finding a solution is difficult, but verifying one is easy. It's also about obfuscation from chaotic or very high-dimensional dynamics. Things get mixed up incredibly well. And it even touches upon information theoretic secrecy, where the necessary information to reconstruct the key might not be in the public signal at all. It's difficult to reverse engineer that hidden geometry from its surface rhythm.
Like trying to understand the clock by watching the hands move.
You see the output, but the mechanism is hidden.
Now, to make these complex operations more graspable, the framework maps these formal actions to a conceptual interface, the love interface.
Ah, yes, the love interface. It's a slightly whimsical but insightful way to frame these processes. It helps understand how the system interacts with its identity and signals.
Walk us through it. What are the steps?
The first step is recognize. This is where the system identifies and maintains its unique invariant attractor, that stable pattern it naturally settles into.
Identity.
This act of recognition directly establishes and holds its private key. It's like the system recognizing its own unique identity amidst internal noise or external bumps. It settles into who it is. Then there's bind. This is when different subsystems, maybe different oscillators, synchronize or correlate their activities. They start acting together. This synchronization is analogous to generating and attaching a signature to a message, or that public signal. They come together, and that coherence creates the cryptographic signature, locking the public signal to the system's private identity.
Binding the signal to the identity.
Next is resonate. This is conceptually simpler. It's where the coherent signal is propagated over the network or transmitted to external observers. It's the secure communication sending out its authenticated voice.
Recognize, bind, resonate, differentiate.
Yes, differentiate. This one is fascinating and points to the dynamic nature. The system undergoes a bifurcation, a fundamental change in its behavior, maybe just a subtle change in its geometry due to shifting internal parameters or connection. This change leads to a new key, or perhaps the revocation of an old one. It allows for dynamic key updates. Your security key isn't fixed. It can evolve with the system.
It gives you things like perfect forward secrecy or adaptability.
If the system changes, the key changes. An old compromise key doesn't compromise the new state. It's the system's ability to evolve its identity and security. It's a powerful concept.
How do you take that idea and make it concrete? How do you build a prototype? What kind of system did researchers use to test this?
That's the crucial step, right? Moving from theory to practice. To make this abstract dynamical system tangible, researchers turned to something elegant and well understood in the complex system science. Networks of coupled Kuramoto oscillators. They turned out to be a perfect illustrative example, and the underlying idea is surprisingly relatable.
Kuramoto oscillators.
Right.
Give us an analogy. How can we picture these?
Imagine a large crowd of people at a concert or a rally, and they all start clapping. Initially, everyone claps at their own pace, their own rhythm. It's just noise, a cacophony.
Right, totally out of sync.
Exactly. But if they're coupled, meaning they can hear each other or see people clapping or just feel the rhythm through the floor, they'll often synchronize.
Like synchronization.
The Kuramoto model is a mathematical framework that captures this universal phenomenon beautifully. You see it everywhere, fireflies blinking together, neurons firing synchronously in the brain, even pendulum clocks on the same wall influencing each other.
The crowd clapping together is like the Kuramoto oscillators synchronizing. The key is hidden. The aggregate clapping might seem simple, just this unified rhythm. You're saying there are subtle hidden patterns underneath.
That's it. It's not perfectly in sync. There's always a slight unique dance among the individual clappers, tiny differences in their timing or phase. In a network of Kuramoto oscillators, this state of synchronization corresponds to reaching a stable invariant manifold in its high-dimensional space, remember?
A landscape of possible states.
Here's where the private key emerges. The precise topology and curvature of the synchronization manifold, the intricate shape of how they are synchronized, becomes the unique definition of the private key.
The system's identity is embedded in the intricate shape of its synchronized state.
Exactly. And what does the public hear or see? The aggregate oscillation waveform, the overall combined rhythm of the crowd clapping, or the summed output of all the oscillators. That's the public signal, saying the system emits and cryptographically signs.
So the system finds its unique rhythm, and the hidden geometric structure of that rhythm is the secret key.
You got it.
But you also mentioned that just connecting oscillators randomly isn't enough for strong security. The way they are connected is critical. They place them on specific structures, Ramanujan graphs.
Exactly. This is where the deep mathematical elegance comes into play, underpinning the system's security strength. Ramanujan graphs are not just complex networks, they are mathematically proven to be optimal expanders.
Optimal expanders. What does it mean in simple terms?
It means they have incredibly efficient, almost perfectly distributed connections. Imagine information trying to spread across the network like the individual phases or timing differences of the oscillators. On a Ramanujan graph, information mixes and spreads across the entire network almost instantly and thoroughly.
Dropping ink into a spinning blender.
That's a great analogy. This rapid and thorough mixing is crucial for security.
What makes them optimal expanders? You mentioned a spectral gap.
Their defining property is a maximal spectral gap. Think about a network structure represented by its Laplacian matrix. This matrix captures how connected the network is, how information flows. Its eigenvalues, think of them as the network's natural vibration frequencies or its fundamental modes of collective behavior. A maximal spectral gap means there's a large gap between the most dominant overall vibration, which corresponds to the synchronized state, and all the other less dominant modes. This large gap ensures the system prefers to synchronize, and that any deviations or individual information gets mixed away extremely quickly.
The gap drives the synchronization and mixing.
This intense, almost perfect mixing created by the graph structure makes it so incredibly hard for an observer just seeing the aggregate output to untangle or reverse engineer the underlying connections and oscillator states. It creates a complex, robust geometry that is exceptionally difficult to infer from the outside.
That's fascinating. The graph's hidden architecture, connections you can't see, directly determines how well the system synchronizes and how cryptographically secure its hidden geometry is. It sounds like the network design is a cryptographic primitive.
It is. Empirical evidence from simulations showed something important. Researchers talk about the Ramanujan principle, this core concept of optimal spectral expansion. This principle is more critical than the strict mathematical definition of being a Ramanujan graph.
Other graphs can work if they have this property.
Exactly. Graphs that exhibit this optimal expansion principle, even if they aren't technically part of the infinite family of Ramanujan graphs, can provide superior security. For instance, the Peterson graph, a small graph with 10 nodes, delivered the highest possible spectral gap, a value of 2,000 in their tests. And this correlated directly to higher measured security in the prototype. It beautifully illustrates that optimal mixing, quantified by the spectral gap, is what truly matters for cryptographic strength, not just the label.
Okay, so in this Kuramoto Ramanujan system, what does the public actually get to see? And what remains the truly unbreakable secret, the private key?
So the public can observe the rhythm, that aggregate Kuramoto oscillation waveform. You hear the crowd clapping near unison, or you measure the overall electrical signal from the oscillators.
The public part.
The actual private key, kgeom, lives deep within the hidden geometry of the network and its dynamics. This includes the subtle, precise curvature of that underlying phase space manifold. It includes the exact distances between different synchronized states when measured along that manifold using the Ramanujan metric. And critically, it includes the precise structure of the Ramanujan graph itself, exactly which oscillator is connected to which.
You can hear the beautiful synchronized song the orchestra is playing, the overall melody, the aggregate sound, but the sheet music for each instrument, the acoustic properties of the concert hall, the seating arrangement of every musician, all of that underlying structure that creates the sound that's hidden.
Perfect analogy. The sheet music, the hall's acoustics, The arrangement is the secret.
It's the complex, hidden structure you need to reconstruct the entire system's internal shape and dynamics that forms the unbreakable secret.
An adversary only gets the aggregate, thoroughly mixed public signal. The blueprint remains profoundly obscured properties, fundamentally protected by optimal spectral mixing.
Okay, why is it so hard, maybe impossible, to reconstruct this hidden geometry just from the public signals? This is the core of the security argument, isn't it?
It is, and the reason is profound. Inferring that intrinsic geometry from an observed public signal, a simpler, lower-dimensional time series of aggregated oscillations, is fundamentally a hard inverse problem.
An inverse problem.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the cause from the effect.
Exactly. And in this case, a particularly nasty one, it's like that analogy we used earlier, trying to unscramble an egg. Once the information from all the individual components, their phases, connections, is mixed, diffused, and aggregated throughout the system by optimal expander graph dynamics, it's virtually impossible, computationally speaking, to reverse that process and recover the original precise configuration. You're trying to deduce a high-dimensional complex structure from a drastically simplified lower-dimensional projection. Most of the crucial information just isn't there anymore in the output signal.
And the key is tied to the network's spectral properties.
The private key, KGM, is defined by the spectral properties of the network's Laplacian matrix, specifically its non-trivial eigenvalues. Those unique vibration frequencies we talked about. They are a fingerprint of the graph's structure and thus the system's geometry.
The system's inherent complexity and ability to mix information aren't just side effects, they're the source of the security.
That's the beauty. It leverages the natural properties of complex systems.
And you mentioned the spectral gap earlier is crucial. How does that connect to security? Is it like a numerical security score?
The spectral gap is the crucial link. It acts as a measurable proxy for the cryptographic hardness of this inverse problem. A larger spectral gap directly correlates with higher cryptographic security.
Why? What does a large gap do for security?
There are a few key reasons interconnected. Firstly, as we've touched on, it provides maximum obfuscation. A large spectral gap signifies the graph is an excellent expander.
The rapid mixing.
Information, like those individual oscillator phases, mixes and diffuses across the network almost instantly and thoroughly. For an attacker observing the aggregate signal, this rapid mixing makes it computationally infeasible to infer the underlying highly specific graph structure, which, remember, is the private key or encodes it.
The stronger the mixing, the less information leaks out about the internal details, making it harder to reverse engineer.
Secondly, a larger spectral gap contributes to maximum key uniqueness. A larger gap is typically a signature of a highly structured and unique spectrum for that network graph.
Meaning the vibration frequencies are specific and distinct for that graph.
Exactly. This directly translates to a more unique and complex geometric key derived from those frequencies. Think about traditional keys, like a combination lock. There are, say, 10 digits per wheel, 4 wheels, so 10,000 combinations. You can try them all. Here, it's more like the shape and intricate movement of the lock's internal tumblers are the combination. And that shape is so uniquely complex precisely because of the structure guaranteed by the maximal spectral gap. It creates a key space orders of magnitude larger and more complex than a simple numerical string. It's exponentially harder to brute force or find another graph that accidentally produces the same key. A collision.
Maximum obfuscation, maximum key uniqueness. A third reason.
Yes, maximum coherence stability. It turns out that networks with higher spectral gaps, like that Peterson graph we mentioned, which had the maximum gap, also achieve higher levels of synchronization stability. They settle into their coherent state more strongly and resist perturbations better.
The system's identity is more robust.
A stable, coherent system produces a reliable, consistent cryptographic key over time. This is essential for practical applications where you need consistent authentication. The key doesn't flicker or change randomly.
Researchers ran into runtime warnings, numerical errors, or instabilities when they tried to project the system state onto its eigenbasis.
That happened.
My first reaction, and probably most people's, would be, uh-oh, that's a bug. We need to fix that, smooth it out. Sounds like a problem.
It sounds counterintuitive, right? You expect simulations to be clean and stable, but this turned out to be a genuine aha. Moment for the research team.
How?
Instead of viewing these numerical instabilities as errors or bugs, they interpreted them as a feature, a manifestation of the cryptographic hardness itself.
Wait, instability is good.
Projecting the system's state onto its eigenbasis. What does that mean? It essentially means trying to decompose the system's complex, integrated, synchronized state back into its fundamental modes of vibration, its natural patterns of behavior.
Trying to perfectly isolate each individual instrument's sound after the orchestra has played and the sound is mixed in the hall.
If it were easy and stable for the system or researchers to perfectly perform this decomposition, to project its current state back onto those basis modes for reconstruction, it will likely be easy for an attacker to do something similar, wouldn't it?
Ah, I see. If the system could easily unmix itself, so could an attacker.
The inherent computational difficulty and numerical sensitivity of this projection process is actually part of what makes the system secure. It's a sign that the information about the precise contribution of each mode is effectively lost or smeared out in the overall synchronized state, especially through the aggregate signal. The system is computationally forgetful of its precise constituent parts once it synchronizes, and that's exactly what you want for cryptographic security based on obfuscation. It was a beautifully elegant realization the math itself was hinting at the security.
This really does feel like a profound shift in cryptographic thinking. Unlike traditional schemes, which rely on the assumed hardness of these static algebraic puzzles factoring, discrete logs, lattice problems, this new paradigm leverages the inherent computational complexity of geometric inference problems.
Yeah.
It's about deducing a hidden dynamic shape.
The security foundation here is rooted in the intractability of reconstructing specific graphs from partial observations, like the aggregate signal. It's also related to the difficulty of certain path-finding problems in expander graphs. These are problems that are strongly believed and sometimes proven to be computationally infeasible for any adversary, even one with significant resources. It's a different kind of hard problem, woven into complex dynamical systems and their geometry.
We had these incredible theoretical foundations. The Kuramoto oscillators providing the dynamics, the Ramanujan graphs providing the optimal mixing and structure, the spectral gap providing a measure of security based on geometric inference hardness. How do you take all that and build something real? Researchers went on that proof-of-concept journey, right?
They absolutely did. It's one thing to have the theory, another to make it work. An early Python prototype was built to demonstrate these foundational concepts in action.
What did it show?
It showed a network of Kuramoto oscillators achieving synchronization, just as the theory predicted. Crucially, it demonstrated that they could extract geometric features from the synchronized state, like pairwise distances between oscillators and eigenvalues of the network's Laplacian matrix. And then it showed they could use these extracted geometric features to derive keys and perform cryptographic signing and verification. Early tests were promising, showing what they reported as a 0% forged success rate, which was a really exciting initial indicator.
This prototype was refined to incorporate those Ramanujan graphs we talked about, making the network topology a core part of the security mechanism.
The next iteration, the refined prototype, focused on using Ramanujan graphs, or graphs with the Ramanujan property like Peterson, as the underlying network topology. This version concentrated on extracting spectral keys derived directly from the graph's Laplacian eigenvalues, that spectral fingerprint.
How did it sign things?
Initially, it used 82551-time digital signatures, the strong, modern, elliptic curve-based signature scheme. The goal was to create a full-stack demonstration from the living dynamical system through geometric key extraction to a standard verifiable cryptographic signature. This was the first concrete implementation of a dynamical crypto system.
Walk us through the process. How is this geometric key forged or extracted and then used to sign that public signal?
Extracted is better. It's not forged like metal. It emerges. The first step involves running the simulation. They built a Python class, Kuramoto Oscillator Network, which simulates the continuous evolution of these coupled oscillators over time. You let it run until the oscillators reach a synchronized state.
That's the system finding its stable pattern, the recognized phase.
Exactly. That's the system settling into its unique dynamic identity. Then comes the key extraction, the heart of the process. The spectral key extractor takes the precise structure of the graph, which nodes are connected to which, and computes its Laplacian matrix. It then performs an eigenvalue decomposition to extract the graph's non-trivial eigenvalues we keep mentioning. These eigenvalues, along with potentially other structural properties like the adjacency matrix details, the degree sequence, how many connections each node has, maybe clustering coefficients,
Suite of geometric data.
these are quantized, converted from continuous values into discrete numbers with high precision, making them suitable for use in a digital cryptographic context. All these quantized numbers are then combined, often through a cryptographic hash function, into a single, robust geometric hash.
This hash is a compact, unique digital summary of the system's hidden geometry.
Precisely. It's the system effectively binding its identity into a usable digital fingerprint.
Is that geometric hash the cryptographic key used for signing?
Not directly, no. This turned out to be a crucial security refinement they implemented later. Directly using raw hash bytes can be brittle. Instead, this high-entropy geometric hash serves as the input seed material for a standard, robust key derivation function, specifically HKDF, HMAC-based key derivation function.
HKDF. I've heard of that. It's used in TLS, right?
It's a cryptographic standard designed to take initial keying material, like our geometric hash, and securely derive strong, cryptographically sound keys. It uses techniques like hashing with salts and domain separation to ensure the derived keys are suitable and resistant to attack.
Purifies the geometric hash into a proper key pair.
It securely derives a robust cryptographic key pair, like an ED25519 private and public key pair, from that raw geometric input. This replaced earlier, less secure methods where they might have sliced bytes directly from the hash. Using HKDF adds a significant layer of cryptographic rigor.
How is the signature created?
Once that key pair is generated, the spectral signature system takes the aggregate oscillation signal, that public output, from the Kuramoto oscillator network simulation and signs it using the HKDF-derived private key.
That's the bind phase attaching the authentic signature.
The system attaches its authentic, cryptographically secure signature, derived from its intrinsic geometry, to its public output. This signature, along with the corresponding public key, can then be transmitted or shared. Anyone can use the public key to verify the signature on STI is valid, confirming the signal came from the system with that hidden geometry. And that's the resonate part, propagating the verified signal.
You mentioned refinements. This is cutting-edge research, and new ideas rarely work perfectly the first time. Early versions, while groundbreaking, apparently faced critical security vulnerabilities. What kind of flaws did they uncover during this iterative development process?
Yes, several important ones. Discovering and fixing them was crucial for validating the concept. One major issue in the early tests was misleading forgery test logic. The original test setup would basically generate a fake signature using some attacker-controlled process, and then try to verify that fake signature using the attacker's own self-generated public key.
Wait, that would always work, wouldn't it? If you generate the key pair and the signature yourself.
Exactly. It proves nothing about security against a legitimate system. It was checking if the attacker could successfully sign something for themselves, not whether they could forge a signature that would fool someone expecting a signal from the real system. It was a significant flaw in the initial testing methodology.
Wow, okay, that's a big difference. What vulnerabilities did they find?
There was the issue of unsafe key derivation we touched on. The very first prototypes derived keys by just taking slices of bytes directly from the raw geometric hash. This is generally considered cryptographically insecure.
Why insecure?
Raw hash outputs might have biases, dependencies between bytes, or not distribute entropy perfectly evenly. Slicing them can make it easier for an attacker to mount attacks, like pre-image attacks, trying to find an input that produces a given hash, or brute force attacks, especially if the space of possible graphs was small or the hashing process wasn't cryptographically strong enough. Using HKDF fixed this.
Okay, what else?
There were some overly optimistic post-quantum claims in the very early stages. The system was described as post-quantum while still using ED25519 signatures.
Based on elliptic curves.
Elliptic curve cryptography, while strong against classical computers, is vulnerable to quantum computers running Shor's algorithm. Claiming post-quantum security while using a pre-quantum signature scheme was inaccurate.
Used a good modern signature scheme, but one that wasn't actually quantum resistant.
Got it.
Any other issues?
There was also potential for information leakage. Some early methods involved, including truncated adjacency hashes or other raw structural bytes, directly in the geometric hash function. This might leak too much information about the graph structure, aiding brute force attacks, especially on smaller graphs. An adversary might narrow down the possibilities.
Right.
Plus, there were performance bottlenecks. The initial Kuramoto simulation used standard Python loops, which have an ON complexity, meaning the computation time grows with the square of the number of oscillators, n. This would be far too slow for simulating larger, more realistic networks, limiting its practical scalability.
How are these critical flaws addressed? What were the crucial fixes that transformed this from promising concept into a robust, security-hardened prototype?
They tackled them through rigorous internal review and iterative development. These fixes marked significant breakthroughs. That flawed forgery test was completely overhauled and fixed.
How did they fix it?
It was corrected to do the right thing. Attempt to verify a potentially forged signature against the legitimate public key generated via HKDF from its geometry.
Okay, testing the real target.
Exactly. When they did this corrected test, the results were what they hoped for. True forgery attempts resulted in a consistent 0% forged success rate.
That's validation.
That was a critical, hard-won validation of the system's core security principle. It demonstrated genuine cryptographic resilience against impersonation.
What about the key derivation?
As we discussed, a secure HKDF implementation was adopted. This ensured secure key derivation from the geometric hash, using cryptographic salts and domain separation info. This significantly strengthened the cryptographic foundation and closed that potential vulnerability.
And the performance issue, the slow loops.
For performance, the Kuramoto simulation step was highly optimized. They rewrote it using NumPy's vectorized operations. This leverages highly optimized C code and transforms the computation from slow Python loops into much, much faster, highly efficient vectorized operations that can handle large arrays simultaneously. This made simulating larger networks feasible.
Any other improvements?
Other improvements included implementing realistic noise models in the simulation, exploring robust spectral sketching techniques to approximate the spectrum efficiently for large graphs, and ensuring deterministic serialization for consistent signing processes.
What's the current security status of this dynamical crypto system?
Yeah.
Can we say it has achieved cryptographic security?
Based on their reports and the fixes implemented, the system was indeed declared cryptographically secure in the sense that it demonstrated a 0% forgery rate against legitimate public keys. It also exhibits perfect forward secrecy, because if the network structure perturbs slightly, like a node failing or connection changing,
The geometry changes.
the spectral fingerprint changes, the derived HKDF key changes detectably. Old signatures become invalid, and compromise of a past key doesn't affect future security because the key is tied to the current state. It produces unique geometric keys for complex graphs and leverages secure key derivation via HKDF.
Let's revisit the post-quantum aspect. How does it stand now, especially those initial optimistic claims versus the use of ED 255Y9?
This is a critical nuance and a fantastic aha moment, I think, for you, our listener, because it shows the real, often messy process of cutting-edge research and development. The system was upgraded. They swapped out the ED 255 Arundine signatures.
For why?
They upgraded it to use SpinCS Plus signatures. SpinCS Plus is one of the algorithms selected by NIST, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, as a standard for post-quantum digital signatures. It's based on hash functions, not number theory problems vulnerable to Shor's algorithm.
The signing mechanism is now genuinely post-quantum resistant.
Correct. The algorithm used to create and verify the digital signature is designed to be secure against attacks from both classical and quantum computers. That's a major step forward. However, this is crucial.
There's a but.
Recent entropy analysis on keys extracted by the prototype system showed the entropy in the key derived from the graph's spectrum was low for the network sizes tested. For a 100-node graph, the estimated entropy was around 8.5 bits.
Wow, 8.5 bits. That sounds low. Standard keys are 128 or 256 bits of entropy.
You're right to be surprised. 8.5 bits is cryptographically very weak in resisting brute force search.
Even though the signature scheme, SpinCS Plus, is post-quantum strong, the key being fed into it might not have enough randomness.
This means while the underlying mechanism for signing and the cryptographic primitive are quantum resistant, the effective key strength derived from the current method of extracting the geometric key from the graph spectrum is still considered low, 64 bits, for the graph sizes explored so far.
What's the implication? Could it be brute forced?
A key with only 8.5 bits of entropy means there are around 362 possible keys to try. Even if it were, say, 30 or 40 bits, that's still potentially within reach of a dedicated attacker with significant resources. An attacker might find a collision, find a different graph structure that accidentally produces the same low entropy key, or just guess the key through brute force if the space of possible keys is small enough.
This doesn't invalidate the concept.
The breakthrough of using dynamic geometry for keys and achieving 0% forgery is real.
That highlights generating enough entropy, real-world key strength, from this geometric extraction process is still a major challenge for practical deployment.
You've nailed it. It highlights the iterative nature of cutting-edge research. The core concept is proven to work cryptographically. The primitives can be post-quantum. But achieving practical high-entropy key strengths, like 128 plus bits, from realistic graph sizes using spectral methods, is still an active area of research. It's a breakthrough, but the journey to full, robust, practical security across all scales is dynamic and continues.
You know, we spent time talking about the math, algorithms, code, Kuramoto oscillators, Ramanujan graphs, spectral gaps, HKDF.
Technical details.
But what's mind-bending about this dynamical cryptosystem concept is that it's apparently not just some abstract mathematical game they've invented. You're saying this framework is deeply rooted in fundamental physical principles. It feels like cryptography is revealing itself as an inherent property of how the universe works.
That's a profound way to put it.
Complex dynamical systems, especially those modeled by nonlinear dynamics, like coupled oscillators, fluid flows, or chemical reactions, inherently involve continuous energy flows, dissipation, like friction or heat loss, and the production of entropy.
Entropy.
Disorder, or more accurately, a measure of the system's microscopic configurations, or unavailable energy. These aren't just mathematical terms added on. They are real, fundamental physical phenomena happening constantly within the system as it evolves and tries to settle into stable states, those attractors. The system isn't just a set of equations. It's like a self-contained universe of energy exchange and information processing.
So where's the connection then? What's the bridge between this abstract geometry of the state space and these very concrete principles of thermodynamics, energy, entropy? How do they actually link up? The field that provides this elegant mathematical bridge is called information geometry. It's a fascinating area that emerged from the work of pioneering physicists and statisticians trying to apply geometric concepts to probability distributions.
Okay.
Information geometry links statistical manifolds, geometric spaces, describing the probability distributions of the system's states, to thermodynamic potentials like free energy. It links these to the system's intrinsic geometric structure that we've been talking about, like the Ramanujan metric derived from the Fisher information matrix.
Changes in the system's geometric structure is the key.
Correspond directly to shifts in its thermodynamic equilibrium state or non-equilibrium steady states. The system's geometric identity, its cryptographic key, is tied to its fundamental energy landscape and how it seeks low energy, high stability configurations.
The security doesn't just emerge from computational difficulty, but from deep physical complexity and stability. That's incredible.
Precisely. And it connects back to entropy. Cryptographic strength often correlates with entropy, unpredictability, randomness, information content.
You want keys to be random looking.
The system's thermodynamic entropy, the measure of disorder or lost microscopic information as it evolves and dissipates, can be interpreted as the information complexity essential for generating secure, unpredictable keys. Think of it as the system constantly churning out new, complex, and irreducible information patterns through its natural physical processes, making it harder to predict or reverse engineer. The more thermodynamic messiness or complexity the system naturally produces in reaching its stable state, potentially the more secure the key derived from that state could be.
You mentioned irreversibility earlier, the idea that some processes don't run backward easily, like the broken egg. How does that play into cryptographic security?
That's another deep physical connection. Consider those analogies. A broken egg cannot spontaneously reassemble. Hot coffee cooling won't spontaneously gather all its heat back into the mug.
Violates the second law of thermodynamics, right? And entropy always increases overall.
These physical processes are fundamentally irreversible without directed input of energy to fight against the natural tendency towards increased entropy. This inherent physical irreversibility in many complex systems helps ensure the one-way functions and computational hardness assumptions crucial for cryptographic security.
The physics makes it hard to go backward from the public signal to the private key.
In essence, yes. It implies that the private key, the specific configuration and geometry, simply cannot be reconstructed from the public signals, the aggregate dissipated output, without an astronomically high energy cost or computational effort that is analogous to reversing an irreversible physical process. It's like trying to put the scrambled egg. The information has been irreversibly dissipated into the system's microscopic degrees of freedom or environment.
It's more than just a crypto system. It's a thermodynamically driven dynamical crypto system.
That's how the framework conceptualizes it. In this view, the energy flows, the entropy production, and the system's evolving geometric structure all dynamically co-evolve to continuously maintain secure and verifiable signals. It's a system where the physics and cryptography are intertwined.
Does this thermodynamic perspective have practical implications?
Practical considerations like the system's energy consumption, how much heat it dissipates, and how sensitive it is to environmental noise or temperature fluctuations are no longer just engineering annoyances to be minimized or compensated for. They are recognized as fundamental real-world thermodynamic limits that directly influence the stability, robustness, and longevity of those coherent states used as keys. It forces you to think about cryptography as rooted in physical reality, embracing its inherent complexities and constraints.
This brings us to a really exciting point, especially thinking about the future and the ongoing race for quantum-resistant encryption. What does this dynamical approach mean for cryptography beyond resisting quantum computers? It feels like it's tackling security from a different, maybe deeper angle.
It represents a fundamental paradigm shift. Current post-quantum cryptographic schemes, the ones based on lattices, codes, multivariate equations, even hash-based signatures like ScanCs+, are primarily designed to resist known quantum computer attacks by choosing mathematical problems believed to be hard for both classical and quantum computers.
Finding harder math puzzles.
Yes. This dynamical system approach takes a different and arguably more profound route.
It's not just picking a harder algebraic puzzle for a computer, quantum or otherwise. It's entirely different.
Instead of selecting a harder static puzzle, this method hides the puzzle inside a physical evolving process. The secret isn't a static number, a point on a curve, or a vector in a lattice. It's the inherent unobservable or partially observable dynamics and the evolving geometry of the physical or simulated physical system.
The hardness comes from physics, not just math.
The security emerges from the computational difficulty of inferring the intrinsic state and internal geometry of a complex system based on its partial observable outputs. You can observe the symptom, see its surface rhythm, but you cannot deduce the internal cause, the hidden geometry, without an immense, practically impossible computational effort. It's a physics-inspired form of security.
This really does open up some genuinely exciting, maybe even slightly mind-bending possibilities for security technology. Thinking about this era of living keys, systems whose very existence and behavior are their secret.
Absolutely. Potential future applications are fascinating. Think about hardware keys based on microfluidics.
Tiny liquid circuits.
Imagine tiny, self-contained devices, intricate microfluidic chips with interacting liquid flows, creating vortices, involving controlled chemical reactions. Evolving chaotic yet deterministic states could generate unique, unobservable cryptographic keys in real time.
The device's identity would be its unique flow dynamics.
Exactly. Constantly changing, yet unique to that instance and impossible to replicate without the exact device and its initial conditions. It's like a security chip that breathes its own unique secret.
What about larger systems? You mentioned climate models.
That's intriguing. Think about climate models as self-authenticating systems. Could these immense evolving computational systems, global climate models, weather prediction models, generate verifiable signatures of their current state based on their internal dynamical geometry?
What would benefit?
This could offer groundbreaking new ways to authenticate climate data, ensuring its integrity against potential manipulation or corruption. Imagine a scientific community being able to cryptographically verify a specific climate projection genuinely came from that specific model run. It could enhance trust and reproducibility. And then there's the far-out frontier pushing towards the ultimate biological crypto system.
Like using biology for keys.
Could the complex, nonlinear, evolving dynamics of consciousness itself, or maybe the intricate firing patterns within our neural networks, produce unique dynamic fingerprints? Fingerprints that allow biologicals or AI systems to cryptographically verify themselves or their signals.
Sounds like the brain verifying its own thoughts or identity.
While highly speculative, the underlying theoretical framework, the idea of a living, dynamical system being its own key, extends this possibility into the conceptual realm.
The broader vision here, wrapping these ideas together, is self-verifying complex systems.
I think that captures it well. From vast Internet of Things networks spanning cities or continents to highly coordinated swarms of autonomous robots or drones. Imagine these complex, distributed, dynamic systems proving their integrity and authenticating their communications through their intrinsic, evolving collective geometry.
Like a drone swarm where each drone's secure identity and communication relies on its participation in the swarm's unique, dynamic dance.
Exactly. Security wouldn't be bolted on, it would emerge from the system's fundamental operational dynamics.
It feels like a truly interdisciplinary frontier.
This work uniquely bridges fields traditionally quite separate. Nonlinear dynamics, which gives us the language to describe chaotic and complex behavior, spectral graph theory, providing the blueprints for optimal network structures, information geometry, connecting statistics, thermodynamics, and shape, and post-quantum cryptography, providing robust primitives for signing and key derivation. It's this convergence where the abstract elegance of mathematics meets the chaotic reality of physics to forge new paradigms for security.
This deep dive reveals a profound shift, doesn't it? It seems to move beyond the old idea of cryptography as a static formula or unchanging algorithm.
We start to see cryptography as a living organism. Its security emerges from its dynamic, ever-evolving nature, its constant state of flux.
And the secret itself, it's not merely a number or a fixed piece of data.
No. It's the way a system moves through time. Its continuous, unique dance through its state space. Its identity is its dynamic geometry.
And what's so compelling, and maybe surprising, is that this isn't just some philosopher's abstract concept anymore. It's actually been demonstrated, prototyped, and validated, at least in principle, as a legitimate, security-hardened cryptographic primitive. They've shown it can work and resist forgery.
That step from pure theory to working prototype with caveats about entropy is crucial.
So you can imagine secrets not just as abstract strings of bits or keys locked in a vault, but as complex, evolving landscapes in motion, visible to those who possess the knowledge to traverse and interpret them.
Essentially visible only to those intimately coupled to its internal dynamics.
The system's identity and cryptographic security become one of its dynamic, evolving geometry.
It's an inseparable symbiotic bond between form, function, process, secrecy, a fundamentally new way to think about securing information.
We hope this deep dive into dynamical crypto systems has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to rethink what it means to secure information in our complex, dynamic, and interconnected world. This feels like the frontier where mathematics, physics, and security are converging to forge something profoundly new and exciting.